The question that is raised during elections is campaign financing. And this is what the candidates had to say in terms of how they're financing their campaigns right now as we speak.
You all are traversing the country with choppers and legions of teams. How do you finance your campaign?
Well, it's difficult because we don't have a centralized command. Our campaign, we are raising funds from people, and mostly is in materials, is in donations in terms of choppers, in terms of vehicles, in terms of fuel, in terms of personnel. And really, what you need in terms of cash is not much. This campaign of Kenya Kwanza is bottom-up driven. A lot of hustlers have taken time to give their all in terms of time, in terms of materials, in terms of support in kind. There isn't much about cash. So it's very difficult at this stage to quantify and say, this is the amount that we are going to use for this campaign. What I know is that in the next 1 week or so, we'll now be talking about real figures because we have to mobilize agents, we have to mobilize vehicles, we have to get people to protect the vote. Those people need to be given allowances. That is when now we will come to the cost of the real campaign.
All right, well, Martha Karua, the same question. How do you finance your campaign?
Through public donations in cash and kind. We had a fundraiser just the other Friday, but the donations are a continuous process. The Azimio campaign secretariat is keeping tab. My personal campaign organization, the New Dawn Trust, is also keeping tab of all donations coming to me. And it is the organization that had received the money you asked earlier for BAT. I do not mix campaign money with my own funds because you have to maintain integrity even with donations. We have choppers donated. There is a chopper I personally use, which is a donation from a kind corporate friend. And we have many such donations. And I want to remind Kenyans, my captain, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, has had choppers in his campaign even when he was out of government, like the 2007. I think they flashed more choppers than the PNU side I was in that could have. He is a man known for his capability to mobilize resources, both human and financial, for campaign.
Kawiva, were you satisfied with that response?
I think it is a me against you kind of response. So if I say it's from the public, you have to prove me wrong, or you have to have other information, because we really cannot know. But as a matter of fact, the possibility or the probability that a person who is going into campaign at that level will have own resources that they deploy for that, even if it's ab initio, in an initial stage, is critical. I think what we may want to ask is, because now they have said it is public funds, can we have a public declaration of what funds came in, how was it used, and all that, so that then we know. We need to have a public record of what happens, because they are public funds and it is not their funds, so that then we can be able to account. And that is important. And it answers your question about also the question of wealth, so that we see how much of your personal wealth have you put into the campaigns, and therefore how much are you going to recoup. So, because that is where we miss it as a nation. We are not able to say, if you are campaigning for MCA or MP or whatever position, how much of your personal money do you put in, and how much so are you worth before you go in, and how much do you get out of that position worth? And there should be a system, I think, for all, and especially for members of parliament, to get a way of a body or something, that some institution that checks them, because them being the makers of the law and the oversights of the government have a way of running away and hiding from that accountability. I think that's critical. But for this, I mean, the whole idea of crowdsourcing funds is the first step to ending over individual investment in political processes that are not supposed to benefit you personally. Proverbs said their political positions are about providing leadership, not about amassing wealth. But now we have to interrogate this first and see how much of this has happened, and therefore how much of public spiritedness of the campaigns should we find or see in what is happening?
Yeah, but Prof, this is one of the reasons why illicit financial flows have been so difficult to keep track of. What is the best way of ensuring that campaign financing is on record? Because most of these politicians, in fact, people have always complained that the amount of money they spend to ascend to office is not commensurate to the money they will earn while they are there.
Which is very true. So first of all, I found it interesting when Martha Karua was saying that she has a chopper that is donated by a kind corporate friend. And as you and I know, these corporate friends, they're never kind. As in, they're not doing these, it's not altruistic.
Yeah.
They're doing this because they expect that they'll get something in return, something in the form of jobs for their people, something in the form of favorable policy, something in the form of government contracts, etc. So I was not happy with the responses from the two because they are not true.
Yeah.
There's no honesty from both of them on this point, because we know they get funds from certain quarters, certain corporate quarters and individuals. So when they're talking of fundraisers, who are in at these fundraisers, and what do they want
in return?
In return, and as Kawive was saying, I think the answer is what you say. You must tell us, and this happens in other countries as well.
Yeah.
You must give us a record of each and every single coin that you have received from the public. And in other countries, they also cap the amount that you can get from an individual, because that is how you corrupt the democratic system. It means your vote will count. As soon as I give 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 100 million shillings, my vote will count more than the vote of the person that does not give that money. So that
What do you
means,
mean by that?
What I mean by that is that votes are supposed to count equally.
Well, yeah.
But as soon as I give money in addition to my vote, I am buying influence.
So you expect some kind of reciprocity?
I will get influence much more than the person that did not give that money. So it means we are also distorting the democratic process. Yeah. And that is why campaign finance is regulated, so that there is a fair playing field for everyone, so that we can access government equally. We cannot access government equally if somebody already has 100 million at the door of a presidential candidate. It will never happen. And so that is why these countries require that you must tell the public each and every single cent, because that will be able to trace. If so-and-so gets a contract, we will be able to say this was, they bought influence, and we can have it set aside. Because that way, we're able to protect the public interest.
Okay. Joshua?
Allow me to wear a politician's cap on this. And having vied for a seat, it is the most difficult task a candidate ever faces in any political seat you go for, whether an MCA, governor, or the president. Because politics is an expensive affair. Now, this is the disconnect I get. You have expectation of the public, as well as the law, that you come clean on how you raise the money, but at the same time, no formula is given or proposal given as to how you can get the money. So there's that disconnect. So the political class are faced with this difficult choice of being pragmatic and say, who can give me money? And the most difficult thing is, as a country, we haven't achieved that culture of openness and assistance. There's still a gap of confidence from the members of the public and even any other maybe Kenyans of goodwill. They have this negative attitude towards politicians in terms of, we know you are going in and you're going to make money and you're going to eat, you're going to steal.
Yeah.
So do your thing. So because of that, the politician is left to the vagaries of nature, whereby you have to run a presidential campaign. Look at our respective presidential campaign. Since 02, every election cycle, when an audit is done as to how much money was poured into campaign, every cycle is double the previous cycle. If it costed 6 billion to run a presidential campaign in 2017, this time it will cost 12 billion. So the danger here is a politician is torn in between, let me declare, let me make it open. But you have these donors who, as Prof says, they have a direct interest. To be honest, and I'll be honest with you, the people who fund politicians are those that have a direct interest in government, whether county or national, direct interest. These are the people who want to do business with government. These are the people who, as I said, kind corporate donor is someone having a direct interest. Possibly, we will want a favorable policy which will generate revenue to this person. Importantly, as Prof says, if I give you 2 million, and Trevor texts me and wishes me well in campaign, Professor Migai Akech's 2 million will mean that tomorrow he will have the audacity to call me, whatever I was doing, whether it was to pass a policy, I'll have to pick his call and listen to him and say, yes, sir, what are you expecting of me? And he say, remember what we did? So that is now the state capture. Yeah. So my answer to this, when I saw that question raised to the two deputy president, that question, I really empathize with the two, because as a politician, it's very difficult to come out openly and say, look, it is very difficult to raise money. We haven't gotten to the level of the US, and I think the US and the Western world have already achieved that. Prof has said it very well. There's a cap. The Democrats and the Republicans, there's campaign financing from individual donors, and there is group donors. The cap given for individual is strict, that even Republicans with a huge pool of billionaires, a billionaire can only give to a certain extent. The Koch brothers within the Republicans have a limit of giving to the Republican Party, and you have to declare. Whereas crowdsourcing and crowd financing under Obama, I think, revolutionized that bit and say, instead of relying on individual donor who will give you $2 million, let us go for the $10, $5, and then they set up a campaign secretariat that has to account to the Inland Revenue Authority, have to file returns. And any offense or any, and in fact, I remember Joe Biden faced the same concern, Trump faced the same question during debate, that your team has done this. For Kenya, we are not yet there. My proposal will be two-pronged. Number one, let us have a culture of donation. Let us not have a problem when a candidate calls people around the table and say, let's do $1 million per plate, 100,000 per plate. Let it be open and we declare. And let each candidate after the election, this is what we think the politicians we can do very well. After the election, Kiptosh would come out and say, I participated in a county politic. We were vying for governorship. We were able to raise 15 million. Our donors were this. Because you're even accountable to the donors. Let the donors know we gave the money, we did branding with this, we hired choppers, let it be clear. We even paid for snacks and everything. Once that culture begins, and I would want this team to start now, and I'm waiting for the presidential debate. The best thing the two presidential candidates will give us, the deputy president for Kenya Kwanza and Raila Odinga for Azimio, I wish they make that declaration in that debate and say, after this vote on August 9th, our respective secretariats will come out with the public and declare how much you were able to raise, even if it was self-funding. This is the amount of money we use, and we can be able to account for respective. That will go a long way, that in 2027, donors will be interested in giving because there's a declaration and there's accountability how the money was done. But as a politician, I'll tell you, it's a very difficult area to openly discuss because you are mostly reliant on well-wishers who have a direct interest in the same position.
I think what Joshua is saying is actually those two, the answer of those two presidential, deputy presidential candidates define what state capture is. So their previous answer on state capture is none.
So this is the real state capture. Prof, do you agree with that? That anybody who finances them has a direct interest, and that sort of leaves Kenyans between a rock and a hard place. So how do you ensure that your vote is equal to the person who's donating more?
We have to limit the influence of these so-called kind corporate friends. If somebody has given you a chopper and you're running with it for how many?
30 days.
Or 5 months,
Yeah, and a chopper per day, I hope, per hour, it's almost 100K.
Yes.
So if you're doing 8 hours a day, that's like 800,000, $1 million a day. So Prof has given 3 months. $1 million a day, 30 million a month. 3 months, it will be like 90 million. Who
pays for it? At the end of the day, who pays for it?
And not one chopper?
So what I'm saying is both sides. If you've been corporately funded like that, or you have personally invested that amount of money,
how do you intend to get it back?
How do you intend to get it back? Because even the money that MPs are putting in their campaigns, they can get back for salary for 5 years. They cannot. How do they get it back? The same thing with the president. If you calculate the salary of the president, because it's a public for the 5 years, it is not enough to the money that they are using for the campaigns. Okay. So already we are facing state capture. Okay. State capture, which is at the level of corporate and institutional and personal, personal interest. Right. Now, they will go to the institutional to make sure that the accountability that we require, we don't get. And the services that we require citizens.
Allow me to still insist on that aspect of declaration. Do you know the beauty of declaration? If I declare that I received 2 million, I already expose my donor. So the public, the media will be waiting to see this 2 million, has it led to my bias? Has it led to my conflict of interest? Declaration makes the difference. That is why in the US, as soon as the election are done, whether you win or lose, your campaign secretariat has a timeline within which to file returns, just like the way you file returns to KRA.
And to publish.
It will go a long way in not, we are not seeking to criminalize donation. But by declaring it openly, we open the Pandora and say, this is what we received, Trevor gave, and don't get it wrong. Trevor gave possibly because he likes our campaign, he buys our agenda, he may have an interest, but at least we've declared, it is known. Now the public and the media and even the legislature will have an easy time to say, oh, Trevor is being given a contract because we remember he gave 2 million and we have data to show.
And,
so that is a check.
And you limit the amounts that they are able to donate. Because that way, you reduce the